The stars had always been distant, silent witnesses to the ambitions of mankind. For centuries, humans clawed their way from mud and metal into the void, earning every inch of space with blood, fire, and sacrifice. And when they finally stood among the stars, they thought they'd be welcomed as equals. They weren't. The Galactic Council, a bloated assembly of self-righteous alien species, sat high in their ivory towers, dictating laws with cold precision. They saw humanity as brutes, an unstable species barely out of its infancy. So they shackled Earth with restrictions. No faster-than-light weaponry. No planetary colonization without approval. No military fleets beyond a dozen cruisers. Earth was caged, its ambition suffocated in the name of galactic balance. Captain Ronan Drevik remembered the exact day when diplomacy died. It wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was silent and slow, like rot creeping into the foundation. Earth's mining colony on Cinder 4, authorized and thriving, had been declared illegally expanded by the Council. Without warning, the Council ordered a Zarnian strike team to neutralize the site. 27,000 human lives were vaporized in under 2 minutes. No trial, no warning, just gone. The Council called it a regrettable miscommunication. Ronan lost his brother in that massacre. Colton was a civilian supervisor, just a guy managing dig crews and running maintenance drills. When Ronan saw the recording of the orbital strike, the way Colton's body simply disappeared in a blinding flash, something inside him cracked. But Earth's government didn't retaliate. The president issued a formal protest. The Council promised a meaningless investigation. And the Zarnians? They called it defensive action. That was the moment Ronan knew. Humanity wasn't part of the Council. They were property, tolerated only as long as they obeyed. He sat now in the darkened war room of the hidden Earth resistance base, buried beneath the old Martian ice mines. Around him sat the other captains, men and women who had seen too much, lost too much. Their uniforms were worn, faces scarred, eyes hollow but burning. Ronan slammed his fist on the table. Enough of the Council's lies, enough of bowing. We've begged, we've pleaded, and they keep killing us like pests. Admiral Greaves, the oldest among them, leaned forward. You're talking about war, Ronan. Full-scale defiance. I'm talking about justice. Ronan growled. Cinder the Fourth was a declaration. They think we're weak. Let's show them what happens when humanity stops being nice. There was silence in the room. Not from fear, but from realization. They all felt it. The tipping point had come. Ronan stood and activated the holo display in the center of the room. It flickered to life, showing a secret council vault deep in the Orion cluster. Inside that vault, according to the Resistance's newest intel, were prototype weapons, experimental alien tech so advanced it could turn the tide of any war. We take the vault, Ronan said, voice steady. Not for power, not for conquest. We take it so no one ever dares call us inferior again. A younger officer, Delan, shifted uneasily. That's a direct attack on the Council. They'll label us terrorists. They already do. Ronan replied coldly. We might as well earn it. That night, in silence, a fleet of cloaked human warships left Martian orbit. It wasn't just a mission, it was the spark, the first step into the fire. And behind them, Earth watched, breath held. The Council had gone too far. Now it was humanity's turn. The fleet moved like shadows across the void. 12 ships, each cloaked in Earth's most advanced stealth tech, relics of black-budget programs the Council never knew existed. No more flags, no more insignia. Just humanity stripped down to its raw, angry core. Inside the command deck of the Vengeance, Ronan stood still, eyes fixed on the main screen as stars streaked past. The crew around him worked in silence, but their tension was palpable. They all knew what this meant. This wasn't just some covert strike. It was treason against a galactic order that had ruled unchallenged for millennia. But treason only matters when the system is just. Approaching target coordinates, the pilot murmured. The vault was hidden in a derelict moon orbiting a gas giant in the Orion cluster. Officially, it didn't exist. Unofficially, it was where the Council hoarded forbidden technologies, things too dangerous or powerful to share, especially with lesser species. Ronan activated the comms. This is Drevik to all strike teams. Once we breach orbit, you're on a 5-minute window. In and out. No debates, no mercy. Static. Then a chorus of quiet affirmatives. Admiral Greaves's voice crackled through. If we die here, at least we die showing our teeth. That was enough. The fleet broke cloak and dropped out of FTL like thunder. The moon came into view, scarred and cold, with a single structure protruding from its surface, low, dark, and humming with ancient defenses. Alarms flared across the vault's perimeter. Automated turrets rose from the ground, spitting plasma fire, but the Vengeance took the lead. Shields flared as it absorbed the hits. Flanking ships scattered, launching drop pods like metallic rain. Ronan stood at the hatch, rifle in hand, armor sealed. His heart pounded not from fear, but anticipation. It had been years since he fought on foot, years since he got to look his enemies in the eye. The pod crashed through the vault's outer layer, sending shards of alloy in every direction. As the hatch blew open, Ronan stormed forward into the chaos. Inside, the vault was a maze of alien geometry, walls that shimmered, floors that twisted, gravity fields shifting erratically. But none of it stopped them. Ronan's team moved with brutal precision, cutting through robotic defenders and bioengineered sentries. They reached the core chamber in less than 3 minutes. It was massive, a cathedral of knowledge. Crates lined the walls, each marked with symbols of civilizations long extinct. At the center stood a containment field, pulsing blue, and inside it, a weapon unlike anything Ronan had seen. It looked almost human. A black obelisk, humming with a strange rhythm, its surface carved with scripts eerily close to Earth's earliest languages. Beside it, an alien console flickered warnings in 6 tongues. "What the hell is this?" muttered Delan, stepping closer. Ronan stared, unnerved. "It's not just a weapon, it's a memory." He approached the console and activated the translator. The device screamed in protest, but the translation came through. "Last weapon of the Forgotten War, locked, forbidden, capable of extinction-class effect." Greaves' voice crackled in his ear. "Drevik, status?" "We found something," Ronan said. Something the Council was hiding from everyone. Before he could say more, the chamber lit up in red. A deep, mechanical voice echoed through the vault. "Unauthorized access. Council enforcement inbound. Prepare for planetary cleanse." Ronan's stomach turned. "They're sending a purge." He looked around at his team. "No time. Grab what we can. We're not dying in this tomb." With brute force, they broke the field, seizing the obelisk. The vault began to shake, walls collapsing, systems overloading. As the humans retreated, Ronan glanced back once, eyes locking on the wreckage. This wasn't just a heist, it was war now, and this time humanity would write the rules. The fleet jumped just seconds before the purge protocol ignited. From orbit, the vault moon erupted in a brilliant cascade of fire and plasma, atomized by Council cleansing weapons. No evidence left, no survivors expected. But they were wrong. The Vengeance re-emerged in the outer rings of a dead star system, dark, empty, untraceable. On board, Ronan slammed his fist into the wall of the command deck, chest heaving. Not out of panic, out of rage. They had triggered a council purge without hesitation. No warning, no negotiation. 23 of their soldiers didn't make it out. Their bodies gone with the vault. "Name them," Ronan said, turning to his communications officer. "Every damn one." The list came through. Ronan read each name aloud in silence, his voice rough and steady. The crew listened, standing still, hands at their sides. Some cried quietly. Others stood stone-faced, no music, no eulogies, just names. When he finished, he looked down at the black obelisk now locked in the armored vault below deck. It hadn't made a sound, hadn't moved, but every sensor on board said it was alive. Admiral Greaves appeared beside him, his expression worn. "You realize what we've done?" Ronan nodded. "We've drawn a line." Greaves shook his head. "Number, we've broken the galaxy's spine." Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire across underground networks and encrypted channels. Earth forces strike Council Vault. Alien technology seized by Resistance. Purge protocol triggered. No Council losses, all human casualties. The Council issued a broadcast within hours. Calm, formal, and chilling. "To the people of Earth, your rebellion threatens the harmony of the stars. Return the stolen weapon, surrender the perpetrators, and peace may still be possible." Ronan's face twisted into a bitter smile. He knew their game. There would be no peace, only submission or extermination. But Earth wasn't silent anymore. Across colonies and orbital habitats, support began to grow. Miners on Ganymede refused Council trade shipments. Civilians on Europa began forming militias. Even smugglers and fringe traders, long ignored and dismissed, started pledging loyalty to the Resistance. This wasn't just a single act of defiance, it was a movement. Still, time was short. The Council wouldn't wait. Ronan needed to know what the obelisk truly was before the next strike came. Deep in the engineering bay, surrounded by top mines Earth had to offer, they ran scan after scan on the artifact. No power source, yet infinite energy. No circuitry, yet it responded to thought. Then it spoke. Only Ronan could hear it at first. A whisper. Ancient. Male. Human. "You are the last fire of your kind. Don't waste it." He staggered back, grabbing his head. The others rushed to him, but the whisper faded. "Did it say anything?" Greaves asked. Ronan hesitated, then nodded. "It knows us. Somehow it knows what we've become." They brought in a neural interface, a prototype stolen from Earth's secret programs. Ronan volunteered first. The moment the link connected, his eyes glazed. He saw cities burned to ash, starships devouring planets, a war fought by humans, not against aliens, but against themselves. The obelisk had been built not to destroy others, but to stop humanity. He yanked the interface off, gasping. "It's a failsafe," he said. "Built by humans in a time we've forgotten. They feared what we'd become. It's not just a weapon. It's a judgment." The room went silent. Greaves spoke slowly. "So why didn't the Council destroy it?" "Because they couldn't," Ronan replied. "And because they feared it more than us." Now he understood the stakes. The Council wasn't just policing humanity. They were suppressing something they knew could end them. This wasn't a rebellion anymore. It was destiny. And Ronan Drevik would lead it to the bitter end. The Vengeance became a ghost ship, never in the same place twice, never broadcasting signals, always moving in the shadows. They were hunted now, marked as galactic terrorists by the Council. Every trade port, every satellite, every scumbag informant was watching for their jump signature. But it didn't matter. The Resistance had grown teeth. Ronan stood in the war chamber, overlooking a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked hostile Council systems. Blue zones were neutral, yellow zones were contested. But new green clusters had begun to appear, small, flickering signs of rebellion. Earth's allies were rising. Smuggler clans on Titan were smuggling weapons instead of drugs. A rogue Martian engineering guild had defected, bringing with them ship designs twice as fast as anything the Council fielded. Even a band of exiled alien mercenaries, sick of the Council's arrogance, had offered backup firepower, no questions asked. "Word spreading," Admiral Greaves said, joining Ronan. "You've become a symbol." Ronan didn't smile. Symbols get shot. Greaves nodded. But legends change empires. Below deck, the obelisk continued to pulse, as if it was listening. It hadn't spoken again, but it had begun to affect the ship. Navigation systems adjusting themselves mid-flight, reactors stabilizing beyond normal output. The ship itself was adapting, guided by something no one fully understood. Ronan had stopped trying to control it. It wasn't a weapon to be aimed. It was an ancient force, and he was its conduit. But power has a price. That night, while resting in his quarters, Ronan dreamt. Not normal dreams, visions, memories that weren't his, a burning world, a council of human leaders screaming at each other, cities collapsing, and the same obelisk surrounded by soldiers who had made a final vow, "If we rise again, let us never forget what we're capable of." He woke in a sweat, fists clenched, heart pounding. Humanity had destroyed itself once. The obelisk was a relic of that catastrophe, sent drifting through time and space until it fell into the Council's hands. And they had hidden it, afraid of what it meant. Because it wasn't just humanity's rage they feared, it was humanity's memory. The next day a signal came through, encrypted, faint, but real. A colony on Virel 3 had revolted, killed their council-appointed governor, declared themselves an independent human world. But they were surrounded. Council destroyers had formed a blockade, cutting off supplies. They would be wiped out within hours. Ronan didn't hesitate. "Set course for Virel 3, he ordered. "We break that blockade." "Sir," Delan said quietly, "if we do that, we're at war. Open war." "We already are," Ronan said. "Now we make it official." The resistance fleet jumped in just outside the blockade line. 13 ships against 22 Council war vessels. A suicide mission. But the obelisk hummed again, louder this time, and the vengeance surged with power no one could explain. In the first volley, the vengeance tore through 2 Council cruisers like paper. Energy beams, enhanced by something inside the obelisk, cut through shielding tech that wasn't supposed to be vulnerable. Ronan led the charge. He didn't bark orders, he didn't posture, he destroyed. And the rest of the fleet followed. Explosions lit the void. Wreckage spiraled into planetary orbit. Council ships retreated, shaken, not by losses, but by fear. Fear of what they had unleashed. Virel 3 was free. For the first time in decades, a human colony had resisted the Council and won. Cheers erupted across resistance channels. Civilians wept in the streets. And Ronan, he stood on the bridge, staring at the planet below, jaw clenched. "We're not done," he whispered. "We've only just begun." The obelisk pulsed in agreement. Whatever came next, there was no going back. 2 weeks passed, 2 weeks of silence. Not a word from the Council, no retaliation, no broadcasts, nothing. The resistance expected immediate retribution after Virel 3, but instead the Council vanished behind diplomatic walls and censor ghosts. It wasn't retreat, it was calculation. Ronan knew that kind of quiet. It was the stillness before the killing blow. In the meantime, their ranks swelled. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, even ex-council bureaucrats who'd grown sick of the lies, began pouring in. Earth's underground was now a full-fledged war machine, spread across the solar system and bleeding into distant stars. But with growth came risk. Whispers began to circulate, not about the council, but about the obelisk. Some feared it, called it a cursed relic. Others worshipped it as if it were a god. A few even suggested destroying it. Ronan shut them all down. "We didn't ask for this power," he told his officers during a tense meeting. "But we'll need it if we want to survive what's coming." Admiral Greaves leaned back, fingers steepled. "And what exactly is coming, Captain?" Ronan didn't answer. He just looked at the holomap, at the expanding red zones. Council fleets were repositioning, not randomly, not defensively. They were converging. Earth was the target. The ambush came at Neptune's orbit. A decoy signal, faked distress from a civilian hauler, lured one of Earth's outer defense wings into the trap. 6 resistance ships jumped into the kill zone. Only one made it back. The Council didn't send warnings this time. They sent exterminators. Ronan watched the replay of the massacre. He didn't blink. He didn't flinch. But something inside him went cold. This wasn't about politics anymore. The Council had made their decision. Humanity would not be allowed to rise. He gathered his war council. The ship was dead silent as senior commanders filed in, each bearing fresh scars and the weight of lost comrades. "They're coming," Ronan said. "Not for negotiations, not for peace. They mean to wipe Earth off the star charts." "We can't defend the planet," Greaves admitted. "Not with the fleet we've got. They'll glass the surface before we can scratch them." Ronan nodded. "Then we don't wait." Delon looked up. "You're proposing a preemptive strike?" "No," Ronan said. "I'm proposing we show them what fear really looks like." He walked to the central terminal and keyed in a new set of coordinates. The map shifted, zooming far past known Council space to an ancient sector no human had ever dared approach. The Forgotten Ring. It was the site of the first and only recorded galactic catastrophe, where entire systems vanished overnight in what the Council called a forbidden event. No species was allowed to enter, no ships ever returned. Except Ronan had the key now. The obelisk. He placed his hand on the device, and the ship responded, unlocking ancient star charts, routes lost to time. The obelisk didn't just store knowledge, it remembered humanity's sins and its secrets. Greaves stared at the terminal. "You want to awaken something the Council buried on purpose?" "They buried it because it scares them," Ronan said. "And fear is the only thing they understand." Silence fell. One by one, the officers agreed. The plan was suicidal, reckless, insane, but necessary. The resistance fleet began preparations for a long-range jump, deeper into space than any human had gone, into a region so cursed it wasn't even on Council records anymore. Their goal wasn't conquest, it was revelation. To show the galaxy what humanity truly was, what it could be when cornered, betrayed, and pushed to the edge. As the fleet aligned for jump, the obelisk began to glow, brighter than ever before. Its pulse matched Ronan's heartbeat. And for the first time since Cinder IV, he felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in months. Hope. Dark, violent, and furious. But still hope. The jump tore through space like a scream. Ronan stood strapped in, eyes locked on the display as the Vengeance and its fleet plunged into the unknown. The Forgotten Ring wasn't on any official map, and now he understood why. Space itself here was wrong. Stars flickered in strange patterns, colors bled into each other, and gravity bent in ways that made the human mind ache. But the obelisk guided them, like it remembered the path. When they arrived, there was no welcome, no ruins, no relics, just silence, endless, soul-stripping silence. Then the stars shifted, and the past revealed itself. They weren't ruins from another species. They were Earths, from a time before history, before the Council. The planet was Earth's legacy, or maybe Earth's mistake. Dellen stared at the scans. This can't be real. Humans were never this far out. This tech, this civilization, it's beyond anything we've ever built. It's not what we built, Ronan said quietly. It's what we lost. They landed a small team, Ronan included, and descended into the remains. Artificial gravity still functioned in places. Automated systems flickered back to life as they passed. It was as if the planet was sleeping, waiting for someone to return. And deep beneath the surface, they found the truth. A vault, far larger than the one they raided in Orion. Inside were rows of cryo chambers, millions of them, all empty, all coded with human DNA. A last ark meant to survive a war humanity had waged against itself. And at its center, another obelisk. This one twice the size of the first. Darker. Cracked. It began to hum the moment Ronan approached. He reached out instinctively, and the moment his fingers brushed its surface, his mind was pulled into a torrent of visions. The war. The real one. Humanity had expanded too fast, conquered too much, believed too deeply in its own superiority. It had turned on itself, civilization splitting into factions, ideologies, genetic lines. The stars became battlefields. Planets were erased. In a final desperate act, the survivors built the obelisks, not as weapons, but as reminders, markers of their shame, guardians of the truth, to ensure that if humanity ever rose again, it would remember what unchecked power leads to. And the Council? They were scavengers, opportunists who rose in the ashes, finding the remnants of that war and rewriting history. They feared the obelisks not because they didn't understand them, but because they did. The visions stopped. Ronan collapsed to the ground, gasping. His crew rushed to him, but he waved them off. We weren't the first, he whispered. And we're not the strongest. What do you mean? Greaves asked. We're the survivors of survivors, Ronan said, slowly rising. And we've been here before. We built empires, we destroyed them, and now we have to choose. Do we repeat it? The larger obelisk flickered, then spoke, not in words but in feeling. A single question burned into Ronan's mind. Will you finish what they started, or will you become them? Back aboard the Vengeance, Ronan stared out the viewport, watching the dead world spin beneath them. He understood now. This war wasn't just against the Council, it was against humanity's nature. The fleet set course for Earth. The final stand was coming, and they would face it not just with guns, but with truth. The galaxy needed to see what humanity really was. Brilliant, savage, eternal, and this time they wouldn't forget. The fleet dropped from warp just outside Saturn's rings. Earth hung in the distance, small, blue, oblivious, but it wasn't alone. The Council had arrived first. Hundreds of warships orbited the planet like vultures, their hulls gleaming with ceremonial silver, engines humming in perfect sync. The flagship, a floating city called Veritas Ascend, loomed at the center like a god's fist ready to crush what remained. Ronan stood on the Vengeance's bridge, fists clenched, watching as Council propaganda blared across hijacked Earth networks. This is not genocide. This is preservation. Your leaders have violated the sacred balance. Surrender, and your extinction will be painless. The lies were dressed in diplomacy, but everyone saw the truth now. Greaves leaned in. They think we'll roll over, that Earth's spirit has been broken. Ronan's voice was ice. Then let's remind them what spirit tastes like. The Resistance fleet formed up, 35 ships total, outgunned, outnumbered 10-1. But they weren't fighting with tech. They were fighting with fury. Ronan patched through to Earth's surface, tapping into an old resistance relay that had survived in hiding beneath New Cairo. The message was short, raw. "This is Ronan Drevik. We're back, and we're not asking for permission. Every civilian willing to fight, stand now. Every soldier with a spine, pick up your rifle. And to the Council, this time, the fire's coming for you." They launched. The first wave slammed into the outer Council picket line. Human ships darted between cruisers, using unpredictable movements, erratic, aggressive, suicidal. It worked. Council formations cracked under the chaos. Their protocols couldn't adapt fast enough to pure, unfiltered human madness. Ronan's ship pierced through the line like a dagger. Plasma rained against the shields. Explosions lit the void. Fighters screamed across the stars, engines trailing smoke and fire. It was hell. And then the Veritas Ascend opened fire. A beam of white-hot energy split through the dark, cutting one resistance carrier in half. Dozens of lives gone in a flash. Ronan didn't flinch. He dove straight toward the flagship. The obelisk began to glow again, brighter than ever. Not just light, but noise. It shrieked inside the minds of the crew, vibrating through their bones. The ship's systems warped, adjusted, adapted. Shields reshaped themselves. Weapon power surged. The Vengeance was no longer a ship. It was becoming something else. Inside the Council flagship, panic spread. Their sensors couldn't read the obelisk. Their weapons glitched when aimed at the Vengeance. Their command structure, built on control and routine, began to crumble. Ronan opened a direct channel to the Veritas Ascend. The face of Council Speaker Dral filled the screen, cold, reptilian, mouth tight with hatred. "Human, you are nothing but a remnant of chaos." Ronan leaned in, voice a growl. "Then let chaos burn your empire." And with that, he fired. The shot didn't come from a cannon. It came from the obelisk itself, a pulse of energy older than civilization, more instinct than science. It tore through shields, hull, and bone. The Council flagship didn't explode, it unraveled. The scream of its collapse echoed across every channel in every tongue. And suddenly, the Council wasn't a god anymore, it was prey. Across the fleet, resistance soldiers pushed forward. Colonists on Earth rose up, storming outposts and Council embassies. Old alliances shattered. New fire ignited. But as Ronan stood on the bridge, bloodied and shaking, he knew this wasn't victory. It was only the beginning of something far worse. The obelisk had released power that couldn't be buried again. Humanity had remembered what it was. And now, the galaxy would too. The battle had ended in silence. What was left of the Council fleet drifted aimlessly, torn and blackened, their silver hulls now floating tombs above Earth. Below, cities burned, but not from enemy fire. Those flames came from humanity's hands, reclaiming what had been taken with decades of submission. Resistance banners hung from shattered towers, and makeshift armies guarded what was once governed from afar. Ronan stood in the command chamber of the Vengeance, staring down at the charred globe. It wasn't victory he saw. It was consequence. The obelisk rested in the containment bay, no longer glowing, no longer humming. Dormant, but not dead. Since the final blast, it had gone quiet, like a weapon satisfied after bloodshed. "We won," Delan whispered behind him, voice shaking. "The Council's broken. Earth is ours again." Ronan didn't turn. "We didn't win. We survived." Greaves entered next, his face like granite. "We're picking up broadcasts from all over Council space. Panic, collapse, mutiny. Half their colonies are declaring independence." "Good," Ronan said. "But it's not just humans." Greaves added. "Other species. They're following our lead, starting their own uprisings. It's spreading." That made Ronan pause. They had lit the match, but the fire was no longer theirs to control. The galaxy had watched humanity rise, brutal, unyielding, unafraid, and it had remembered its own chains. What Ronan started as rebellion was turning into revolution across dozens of worlds. But with it came new warnings. The obelisk's final message still haunted him, not in words, but in the echo of that last question. Will you finish what they started, or will you become them? He knew what that meant now. Humanity hadn't been feared because it was violent. It was feared because it was convincing, because it could infect others with its defiance, its anger, its will to dominate or die trying. They were not the destroyers of the galaxy. They were its accelerant. And Ronan, he was the spark. He walked down to the containment bay alone, standing before the dormant obelisk. He placed his hand on its surface once more, not to awaken it, but to speak, to confess. You showed me what we were, he said quietly. But you didn't show me what we could be. That's my choice. That's what's left. The obelisk didn't respond. It didn't need to. The future would speak for it. Back on Earth, new governments began to form, fractured, uncertain, raw. Some begged Ronan to lead, to unify, to bring the same ruthless clarity he showed in war to the mess of rebuilding. He refused. I'm not a president, he told them. I'm a warning. Instead, he gave them everything the obelisk had shared: star charts, technologies, histories, the forgotten sins of mankind. He didn't hoard power, he scattered it. But not everyone agreed. Factions began to rise, some who saw the obelisk as a divine relic, others who wanted to use it to expand humanity's reach even further. There were calls to finish what had been started, to claim council worlds, to rule instead of rise. Ronan watched from afar, and as the galaxy shifted under the weight of this new chaos, he understood the cost of what he'd done. He'd freed humanity, but he hadn't saved it. Years passed. The vengeance disappeared into the fringe systems, running alone through the void. Some said Ronan died. Others claimed he ascended, became part of the obelisk, part of the myth. But the truth was simpler. He ran because he knew what came next. The council was dead, but empires never stay buried for long, and somewhere, someday, someone would stand where he had stood, staring down a world, holding a weapon too powerful to understand, too ancient to refuse. They'd ask the same question, and the stars would wait, quiet and cold, for the answer. Will you finish what they started, or will you become them?